A lovely good morning. It is yet another interesting Thursday edition of the Camnet Breakfast Show, Governance, Policy and Politics, with me and myself, Patrick Soko, and my co-host, Marco Kozi, and together we'll be with you up to the hour of 9. Kozi, how is the morning?
Fantastic. I feel great. I feel refreshed, ready for the day. But surprisingly, I've been hit by a cold weather. We're beginning to think that now it's beginning to get warm, but yesterday we did have a drop in temperatures, but we did have a warning from the Met Department. They issued a statement to tell us that the coming 7 or so days, the weather will be a little bit cold. Mm-hmm. We are happy that we got that alert from the Meteorological Department, just to make people aware. So as you go out this morning, if you go out, especially those that are going for the agriculture and commercial show, mm-hmm. Do make sure that you carry with you something warm, because it seems it's going to be a cold week. It's a lovely day.
Interesting. Well, dear viewers, it is another positive Thursday. Miriam Kaimba, my co-host for the previous breakfast shows, has always advised that we should be positive regardless of whatever comes our way. So we're keeping up with the positive energy and being optimistic, hoping that everything will be fine. But you remember that life is not a coincidence. In terms, if you want to get something, you have to hustle for it, you have to go for it. So what we are simply telling you is that let's get working, and let's get to seek what we want to achieve, and ultimately the goals will be attained. And those resolutions you made on the 1st of January 2023, they can only come true if you stop procrastinating and making sure that you start implementing. At the end of the day, you discover that you will be able to achieve everything eventually.
Speaking of procrastination,
yes,
you seem to be one of the best in this thing.
I seek to understand further details.
Look, you like wanting to do something, but you never ever do it. I always give an example of how you failed towards
how you
failed towards Sanyuka people.
Yes.
But you were, I think I'll go there.
But it was among the realization points when I said no. When I think about something, let me.
You never got to do it, Patrick. You never got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Let me get to act, and that's something that I said I have to make sure that I act, Kozi. It's something that I'm going to prioritize, and making sure that that is avoided. You are right. We procrastinated, and we costed a lot of people there. I would have warned them before it was too late. Mm-hmm. But sadly enough, those people lost out. Now we are going to go straight into our first segment, which is the Health Corner with Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya. Remember to always give us those links in case you want the doctor to share with you a topic that is of your interest. You can always leave us a message, or also get in touch with us on the numbers that are always scrolling on your screens, so that you can get updated. So let's have a look at the Health Corner.
Good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. My name is Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya. So this week we are talking about a very interesting topic, and that is typhoid fever. Yesterday we talked about the signs and symptoms, and we say that some of the signs and symptoms of typhoid fever is that people would have fever, which is increasing every day, and they might also have constipation. Usually it's constipation first and then the diarrhea. Other times they might just have constipation, and sometimes they might just have the diarrhea. So the other symptoms would also be that they would have weakness of the body. They might also feel fatigued and just having body aches. Some of the other symptoms I left out yesterday were that they would have abdominal pain. So they would feel this pain in the abdomen, and sometimes the abdomen may become distended. So they might feel this fullness or bloating of the abdomen. Other symptoms are that they would have some rash that can develop on the trunk or the stomach or the abdomen. So this rash, we call it rose spots. Usually it's some red dots that would appear on the abdomen, and these would signify that somebody has the typhoid bacteria that have caused these rashes in the skin. So those are some of the symptoms of somebody who has typhoid fever. So now today we'll discuss how is it diagnosed and treated in the hospital. So one of the things that needs to be done in the hospital when you are suspected to have typhoid fever is you need to do cultures. So usually it's blood cultures, stool cultures, urine cultures, even culture of the vomit. So if the patient is vomiting, you can use that vomit to culture and take to the lab so that they can test it and see if the bacteria is going to grow from that vomit. The other thing is the stool cultures that can be done because the bacteria is shed in the stool when the patient goes to pass stool. The other things is blood culture. So blood cultures would also show the bacteria in the blood. So that's one way that typhoid fever can be diagnosed. The other way is to do bone marrow aspiration. So they would have to put a needle into the bone marrow to get an aspirate and culture it. So that is a very sensitive test, and usually it yields positive results. However, it's a very painful test, and so it's not usually done or routinely done in the hospital. The other thing is doing a PCR, which can show if there's DNA of the bacteria in the blood. So those are ways in which typhoid fever can be diagnosed. Usually there are also other non-specific antigen tests that can be done. Those are not very specific, so we don't usually recommend doing them, but tests like Wilder test, sometimes they can be done, sometimes they might not, and sometimes they might yield positive results, sometimes they might yield false positive results, so they are not very sensitive. So the other thing is in the treatment of typhoid fever, we need to know how is typhoid fever treated. So the treatment is through antibiotics. So depending on the area where you are at, there are certain antibiotics that are used to treat this infection. So we don't use any other medications apart from antibiotics because they are the ones that attack the bacteria and kill the bacteria. So there are certain places where certain antibiotics don't work because they have become resistant. So you find that the bacteria has become resistant to that type of antibiotic. So they might not use that specific antibiotic. So the doctors will be able to know what antibiotic to give you based on also the cultures. So if the cultures come out, the culture results are out, and they can be able to show the sensitivity of the bacteria, what drug is sensitive or what drug is resistant, so that they can treat you according to how your body is going to respond to the bacteria. So that is how typhoid fever is treated. So it's also important that typhoid fever, that the patient who has typhoid is given fluid replacement, because of course if they're having diarrhea, they will be depleted of fluid. So they would need to be given fluids to just replace their fluid volume in the body. They would also need to be given good nutrition. So good nutrition is very important because it provides the body the capacity to heal and the capacity to recover from the infection. So the patient would need to be put on a very soft diet that is going to offer them nutrients to be able to fight the infection and also to recover from the infection. So those are things that need to be considered when you are having a patient who has typhoid fever. You need to take care of them very well. Make sure that they wash their hands every time they use the bathroom. Those are things that you need to teach the patients or talk to the patient about. If it's your relative or if it's yourself, make sure you are observing good hygiene so that you don't infect other people as well. So I do hope you have learned something today. Today we're talking about the diagnosis and treatment of typhoid fever. We say that typhoid can be diagnosed through cultures of the blood, the urine, the stool, and also cultures of the vomit if possible. Also, it can be diagnosed through a bone marrow aspiration where a sample is gotten from the bone marrow and it's cultured. The other way is through PCR and some other antigen tests that can be done to show if you have the typhoid bacteria antigens. So the other thing in the treatment is that we talked about that it's treated through antibiotics, and these antibiotics, they are specific antibiotics of choice that each hospital would recommend for their patients, also based on the culture results and the sensitivity results of the particular patient. Then we also say that patients with typhoid fever need to be given fluids and they need to be given good nutrition. They also need to observe good hygiene so as not to infect other people as well. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Dr. Nakubyanamfire, or if you've missed any other episodes, make sure you watch my YouTube channel at Dr. Nakubyanamfire. Do not forget to subscribe as well, and do not forget to follow me on Facebook. I'll see you again next time. Stay blessed and stay healthy.
Well, thank you for staying with us. That was the Health Corner with Dr. Nakubyanamfire talking about diagnosis and treatment of typhoid fever. I hope you managed to learn one or two things there in that conversation by the doctor. And Kozi, moving on the program, interesting enough, we have to know how our culture is performing this morning.
Sure.
Yeah, we have seen that it has been behaving somehow cocky, and we have seen that it is going towards the 20 kwacha, but I hope that it will remain as it is, because we still need a stable currency.
Mm-hmm.
So just have a look at the money markets.
So this is how the kwacha is trading against major currencies. British pound, you get it at 24.15, and it's selling for 24.63, and the euro is buying at 20.84 and is selling at 21.25, and the South African rand is selling at 1.03 and buying at 1.05. The United States dollar is buying at 19.01 and it is selling at 19.38. So these are as updated on the 3rd of August 2023, which is today, at exactly 7:10 hours. Now remember that these rates may vary bureau to bureau, so those are the rates and how the kwacha is performing against other major currencies this particular morning. As Patrick says, the kwacha has been fluctuating, and has not shown stability in the past few days. Patrick, we recently did even see an increase in the price of fuel.
Yeah, we did see a marginal increase on the price of fuel. No wonder we always say every time we always pray for a lower price in terms of a stable currency, because when the kwacha misbehaves, that reflects especially on a monthly review of the fuel pump price by the Energy Regulation Board, ERB, and that tends to affect us as commuters, as well as those who are driving. So it tends to have a ripple effect because it detects a lot of prices in terms of prices of commodity. So you discover that fuel is an important ingredient towards moving the economy. So every time we see a sluggish performance of the kwacha, with that tends to affect various commodities on the market, and that's something that we always try to say. Let's continue working hard in terms of maximizing production as a country, so that overall we can have a strong and a stable currency, because talking about a strong currency and a stable currency are two different things. In that we need a stable currency is something that is predictable, that we are able to stay with for a longer period of time, and a strong currency is something that we need for us to compete favorably, even when we are trading in cross-border trade. That's something that we have to have. But if we are going to have a weaker currency, we see that tends to affect the overall performance of the economy. And that's something that I think the United Party for National Development Administration, led by one President Hakainde Hichilema, has to continuously be exploring, especially that we have now the likes of Dr. Stumbe Komsokotwane, who's known to be a seasoned economist, and also at the Bank of Zambia, at under the leadership of Dr. Denny Kalyalia. These are some of the finest economists we have in this country that are able to, we are confident that they are able to help us turn around the fortunes of this economy. And we've seen that the central bank has also continued to advise the government accordingly every time they have their briefings pertaining to how the kwacha is, how the economy is performing in general, and when they are looking at the monetary policy. So we are seeing that partly the government is been taking heed to advise. But when we saw issues like pertaining, for instance, to the supplementary budgets that was being announced that by before the closure of Parliament, I think that tends to say lapses in terms of the budgeting process, because it shows that we need extra money, in that that what we budgeted for in the 2023 national budget is not adequate. Hence, the central government had to look for extra cash, and that's how they forwarded a supplementary budget. And we saw it being approved before the Parliament was adjourned last week. So if we are going to be making sure that we are recovering, we need to continuously enhance prudency in the utilization of resources, and making sure that our fiscal discipline or financial discipline is upheld at the highest level. And that is going to be also instrumental towards Zambia going to economic recovery. And moving on, Kozi, what are some of the stories that we have, so that we can get to zoom in some of the stories that are making the headlines on the Camnet breakfast show this morning?
Yes, we do have a lot of interesting stories that we are going to be zooming in on the program this morning. They are very, very interesting, but we want to remind you that you can also catch us live on our Facebook page, which is Camnet TV. Go to that particular page, like it, and then you can go to this particular broadcast and enjoy the program with us. You can also leave your comments and contributions in the comment section of this particular broadcast on Facebook. We are also live on our YouTube channel. You can also go there and watch us from there. Now, before we get into the stories, also remember that the Agriculture and Commercial Show opened its doors yesterday to the public, and those of you that are going there, do make sure that you keep warm. And remember, If you are exhibiting Camnet TV, we'll be there to give you those stand coverages at very, very affordable prices. You can get in touch with our marketing team, and then they will definitely give you better deals for those stand coverages. Now, getting into the stories that we are zooming in this morning. The first one says former President Edgar Lungu's daughter Chieso has urged the Economic and Financial Crimes High Court Division to dismiss the case commenced by the Director of Public Prosecution, citing irregularity, seeking to forfeit their property to the state. Now, Chieso Lungu, who is a lawyer by profession, alleges that the DPP has failed to serve her court documents since the matter was started. Now, this is in a matter where the DPP has commenced proceedings before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court, wanting the court to order the Lungu's property be fulfilled to the state. Now, the state alleges that the properties which they have cited in the notice of motion are tainted. Here's a report.
The former First family have continued to file their arguments before court in relation to a matter where the Director of Public Prosecution has instituted proceedings against them to ensure that their properties are forfeited to the state because they are allegedly tainted. Former President Edgar Lungu's daughter Chieso has urged the Economic and Financial Crimes High Court Division to dismiss the case commenced by the DPP, citing irregularity. Chieso Lungu, who is a lawyer by profession, submits that the DPP has failed to serve a court document since the matter was commenced. This is in a matter where the DPP has commenced proceedings against her, wanting the court to order that her property be forfeited to the state. Among the properties that the DPP seeks to be forfeited to the state are 3 flats and a pottery. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Gilbert Period, filed originating notice of motions for an application of a non-conviction-based forfeiture order of tainted property pursuant to Order 30 Rules 15 and 17 of the High Court Rules, read together with Section 29 and 31 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act No. 19 of 2010. Implying that Chieso will give up on her properties without being subjected to trial. According to an affidavit sworn on behalf of the DPP by Emmanuel Gondwe, a senior investigations officer at the Drug Enforcement Commission (DEC) under the Anti-Money Laundering Investigations Unit, he had submitted before court that Chieso Lungu has 2 farms in State Lodge with a high-cost house and 4 chicken runs. According to the senior investigations officer, previous submissions before court, the same were acquired between 2013 and 2021. He had also submitted before court that Chieso holds an account at FNB, which she opened on December 9, 2014, and had no significant transaction since it was opened until 2018, when she started using it as a salary account. However, in her affidavit in support of summons to set aside proceedings for irregularity, claims she has not been served with the originating notice of the motions relating to the present matter, and as such she has not had sight nor knowledge of the reliefs endorsed in the said motion. She has since applied to have the process set aside for irregularity. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that particular report. So that is what is happening in the financial crimes, Economic and Financial Crimes Court.
Yeah, this is a story where the former First family is challenging the decision by the Director of Public Prosecution, DPP, to forfeit some of their properties to the state. And this is a story where they are citing irregularities in the manner the Director of Public Prosecution handled that issue, and that's as per what they filed before the court. And we'll continue to track this story until its logical conclusion, because you know Camnet TV is leading in terms of our court reporting, and we do bring you all the stories that are coming from the courts, and so that people, you can be aware what is happening in the other arm of governance, which is the judiciary. Talking about separation of power, you already know that we have the executive, the legislature, as well as the judiciary. Under the judiciary, their stories under the courts are usually covered by Camnet TV extensively, so that you people know where these cases are going, and when these cases are starting, when these cases are being adjudicated on, so that we get you abreast, because sometimes others just start stories. When they go to the courts, nobody knows what happens and how some of the cases ended. But here on Camnet TV, we make sure that we give you those updates pertaining to court news.
So, interestingly, let's get to the next story that we are zooming in this particular morning. Now, the members of two members of the same family of Lusaka's Chawama compound who died in unclear circumstances after their house they were sleeping in caught fire is suspecting foul play in the death of their beloved ones. Now, mother and grandmother to the deceased, Catherine Musonda, alleges that the fire that strangely started from the door cannot lead to the death of her son and grandson. Now, Ms. Musonda has appealed to the police to investigate the matter. Now, the duo died on Friday, 28th of July 2023, around 24 hours after the door of the house they were sleeping in caught fire in unclear circumstances. Let's have a look at this.
They cannot comprehend the loss of their beloved ones who died after the house they were sleeping in caught fire in unclear circumstances. A 46-year-old Elias Mandawala and his son Elias Mandawala Jr. 22 met their fate on Friday 28th July 2023 around 24 hours while they were sleeping. It is alleged that the fire started from the door while the deceased were fast asleep. Catherine Ziambo, niece to the late Elias Mandawala, explains the ordeal.
Tunaona chusi usiku, taona chusi, tachoka, tichoka tunapeza chemlio uyaka kudoa. Ndemwe tinapundira manepazi, kutana manepazi, tambotira manzi, tatira, kungena mucha, peza bantu, basirizika kutana, wapi.
And the time what?
Inapia 24 hours.
Thomas Nyirongo, a relative who managed to put out the fire with the help of the neighbors, is in shock and cannot believe that the deceased met their fate in unclear circumstances. Thomas suspects foul play in the death of his relatives.
Tandizo ndingafuneko hapa tingafunike tashita investigate vantu vanachita vamene hivi. Taziwa ko chechiri chonza kuti nani kari muliro wakaenda unakira kudo. Suja muliro wakira munyumba maybe olokendo yagwa or maybe mwenzeni mbaula suja muliro wakira kudo. So hapa ndiye chikuru chane tifunga tangala kuna taziwa ko chiri chonza pali ekesi vinachitika hivi.
Mother and grandmother to the deceased, Catherine Musonda, cannot bear the loss and wants the arm of the law to take its course.
Wanazona muliro unali orova. So sunuza muliro wamene kutuna chokera kuti sinizi. So pano zotita hilibe. Gantandize vili vonse bonga mwana ni mavuta kulestika pano wantu wawili hapa.
Meanwhile, police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says police investigations have advanced but could not give a comprehensive statement by broadcast time. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Sad story there coming from Chawama, and the circumstances of which the fire started. Very interesting, Patrick. It's sad to lose lives in such a manner.
Yeah, it is indeed sad, and we are looking at pertaining to investigations. The family is suspecting foul play, but you know, such cases usually we don't get a closure on such cases.
Yeah.
So just as we have just covered this story, this is the end, and probably we may not even get an update even from the authorities pertaining to how the investigations were winded up. And what was the decision to say? Was it foul play, or probably the cause of a fire could have been established to say this is what led to the death, and probably bringing the culprits to book, probably if there was truly a foul play. But this is something that we have to be looking at as a country when we are talking about investigations, especially investigations involving people in low-income areas. They are not usually prioritized. So in this case, the family goes ahead and buries their loved one, and that's the end of the story. And the criminals, if at all they may have been criminals, they may be at large. So these are some of the issues we need to be paying attention to if we are to conclusively be addressing these issues.
One of my interests actually is watching crime investigation, either movies or stories or documentaries. And I find it amazing how sometimes criminals are caught even years after the crime. I think that as a country, we must invest in investigations. We really need, because there are a lot of cases that just die a natural death. As you have put it, we don't know what happened later, if there were anything, if there were any revelations that were found by the investigators or anything. It just dies a natural death.
Yeah.
Even on big issues like the burning of city markets, we don't know if there were any investigations. We don't know
how they concluded.
We don't know how they concluded. Now we have seen Chisokone yesterday, or the other day was on fire again. So maybe if we did a thorough investigation in the city market, we could have found a solution to why markets are getting
yes, and would have been able to avoid other markets suffering the similar fate. So if you look at it again, if you've noticed, because last year, this year, we covered a lot of stories from the Zambia police pertaining to murder, but we see those stories ended up there. I think the media and the Zambia police have to continuously be working in tandem, because to get updates pertaining to how these cases are being winded up, because other cases we don't even hear them going to court to say, for example, we suspect this, it's a murder, it's what, but they die natural deaths. And for me, we tend to, that is if we continue with such an approach, that may be what may be deeming the right to life irrelevant, because we have to preserve life, because life, unlike property, you can buy property, but you cannot buy life. Right. So we have to make sure that we protect life, and people who are willingly taking the lives of others must be brought before the wheels of justice, so that we can have order in the country, because at the end of the day, we have to continuously invest in our investigations units, so that they are able to come up with a thorough works. Like you said, Kozi, what we usually watch in international media, we see a lot of activities pertaining to other countries working to round up criminals, but in Africa as a whole, it's different altogether. So we need to make sure that we also are up to the game. But I've also seen that our law investigative wings have been getting a lot of support from Western countries in terms of investigating these cases, in terms of capacity building. For example, the Auditor General's Office under the United States has continued to empower the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Drug Enforcement Commission, the Zambia Police with forensic knowledge pertaining to how they can be getting to the bottom of these crimes, and also knowing the issues pertaining to cyber crimes, because criminals have also now evolved. They are in the space. So now how do we ensure that law enforcement agencies are also equal to the task? So those are some of the issues we need to be looking at. So you two, our dear viewers, in case you want to join the conversation, you are free to do so. Our phone lines are open, and you can also leave us a message on our Facebook page, as well as our YouTube channel, where we are streaming the Breakfast Show live. And we can also leave us a message, tell us where you are watching us from. You can also give us feedback to some of the stories we are looking at this morning. Now, I want us to also look at this story before we get to our guest of the day. We are looking at climate change today, and our guest is Mr. Abel Musumali, who is going to help us discuss various issues pertaining to climate change. And right about now, we are going to look at this story where opposition Socialist Party leader Fred Membe has expressed displeasure in the manner government is handling the negotiations surrounding the Konkola copper mines and Mopani mine. Mr. Membe says the government has failed to handle the issues surrounding the country's major mines. He further underscored the need for proactive measures to reduce the high cost of living in the country. So let's get to look at this story. We'll be back shortly.
Mining remains the country's major factor in driving the growth of the country's economy. Despite issues surrounding Zambia's giant mines, Konkola copper mine and Mopani copper mines, anxiety is now the order of the day among stakeholders on who is going to take over the running of Konkola and Mopani copper mines after the government backed down on its assurance to announce the conclusion of negotiations and the subsequent takeover of the two mines by July 31st, 2023. But opposition Socialist Party President Freddie Membe says the failure of the government to announce a new investor in the running of Konkola and Mopani copper mines is evidence that there is no plan to revamp the mining sector in the country. Speaking shortly at Kenneth Kaunda International Airport after he arrived from the Russian-African Summit Wednesday, 2nd August 2023, Dr. Membe says government has failed to resolve issues surrounding the country's major mines.
We are also following the issues on the mines. We were promised the mines will be sorted out by the end of this month. It hasn't. It has been taken to a day we don't know when. All these are causing stresses for our people, and they need to be looked up into. They need to be addressed, and that's why our party is there for.
The cost of living in the country, Dr. Membe feels something must change to stabilize the price of mealie meal in the country, further warning that the export of the commodity to other countries is a major contributor to the increasing pricing of the country's staple food.
Increases in the meal prices, the export of meal. We were following all that. The challenges our people are facing are huge. This country is not going to be a good place for any of us to live in if it's not a good place for all of us. There's also growing anxiety. People don't know how tomorrow will be. You go to bed, you don't know what you eat tomorrow. This is causing a lot of stress for our people in a day. There is something that has gone wrong in the country. There is something that needs to be corrected quickly if we have to survive.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Well, there you have it. That is Fred Membe, the Socialist Party leader, talking about issues bordering on Konkola copper mines and Mopani mines, and he was also highlighting concerns pertaining to the high cost of living. Let's also have a look at another story, Kozi, before we usher in our guest this morning.
This next story is a very interesting one because the Bus and Taxi Owners Association of Zambia has labeled the move to suspend the public service transport license for Likidi as harsh, claiming it lacked consultation or input from the Road Transport and Safety Agency, RATSA. Now, Minister of Transport and Logistics Frank Tayari Tuesday disclosed that the government has suspended the operation license for Likidi until safety requirements are met. And Association Chairperson Sydney Chewe says the move to punish the entire company out of the era of an individual driver has left operators with fear as they are likely to suffer the similar fate. We have details in the following report.
And Taxis Owners Association of Zambia and coach drivers have cried foul over government's decision to suspend the public service license of Likidi Motorways, calling it a threat on their business. Minister of Transport and Logistics Frank Tayari announced the move on Tuesday, following a latest Likidi bus accident that happened on the Great North Road. The incident came on the backdrop of another accident by the carrier on July 2nd, where 6 people died in an accident involving a Likiri bus and a Tazara passenger train in Mpika. However, addressing the media Wednesday, Association chairperson Sidney Chewe bemoaned what he termed the lack of consultation in the minister's decision.
We feel he made the decision very harshly without consultation, without giving a statement that is corrective also from the operators. And when you look at the operator that they've threatened to take the RSL, these operators complied in most of the things, and the RSL is given by the government. The driver license is also given by the government.
Mr. Chewe laments that an error of a single driver has punished the entire company, leaving about 70 workers in disarray.
And then starts to learn and move forward. That's the only way we can provide a service that can stay a test of time, not to threaten. The investment is too huge. The investment is such that, when we start to frustrate the sector, it is going to mean that the sector is going to be left with no investment into it, because people are going to be scared to invest into this sector.
Questioned about some concerns from members of the public on Likiri's poor road record, Coach Drivers Union of Zambia General Secretary Wycliffe Simbao dispelled the assertions, claiming they were not true.
In the sector, so that we will be able to find solutions together, and like making decisions which are so harsh and based on emotions, because from the look of things, the minister made the decision using emotions, and it doesn't work out like that, because like that, it is one discouraging people from using the companies that are involved, because people will be saying even the minister said this.
The group says it will make a final decision on whether to proceed operations or boycott after a meeting with RATSA on Thursday. In 2021, RATSA had put Likiri Motorways Limited under scrutiny for poor safety measures after the agency expressed concern with the road safety profile of the company. For Camnet News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
Thank you very much, Athas, for that particular report. So that is about the road accident that we witnessed, Likiri bus services having their license suspended after the accident that happened last week. Patrick, you and I were having a discussion a few days ago as regards how to maybe regulate the speed of these buses and also other safety measures to reduce these road carnages.
Yeah, but my question would be, how do you think we can reduce the speed? Is that possible? Is that attainable?
I think so. For me, I think that RATSA, the bus and owners and everyone and association and government should come up with a very effective way of ensuring that the speed of these buses is locked. And you can do that easily just by maybe, I'm thinking as a layman, but you can put something behind the accelerator so that as you accelerate, you just can't go beyond, if the speed limit is 40, you just can't go beyond 40, because however you accelerate, there will be something to block the accelerator from going down further. That's what I think this should be done on all buses. And this should be put in a way that a driver cannot stop at Kapira and remove it and then he continue with his journey, and then when he reaches the next station, Kabwe, he fixes it back. And no, I think it should be put in such a way that it will be difficult to tamper with.
But it is you people, Kosi, that suggest that if the bus is not moving at that speed, that I will just start bus we just see so at the end of the day you end up motivating the driver to say, tunafika fast, especially in many more emergencies, because I want to go and watch Zambia in Kitwe. So this bus, it has to be in Kitwe by 12 hours. So if it's not in Kitwe by 12 hours, I will miss the game in Dola. Then you are motivating the driver.
If we let everyone's ideas flow, we will have confusion. So there must be people to regulate the way we love things. I love speed. Naturally, I love speed, yes. but you don't love speed, and we are on the same bus, and speed, they say speed kills. So we need to regulate. Let's agree. Much as I want to reach fast, you want to reach alive. So let us agree. How do we move safely?
So what is important is that you should reach arrive. I think that's what I'm picking up. You have to be arrive. Otherwise, the speed won't matter if you reach. You reach to the mortuary. So, yeah, interesting. Well, dear viewers, thank you for staying with us on the Camnet Breakfast Show. But now, like we earlier assured you that we were going to have a conversation pertaining to climate change. And in studio, we've been joined by our guest, who is Mr. Abel Musomari. He is also the Chief Executive Officer of Abel Musomari Foundation. And on this program, he is coming as a climate change activist. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you so much, and good morning, viewers.
Interesting. We are happy that you managed to honor our invitation despite the short notice. And I want to start our conversation first of all us getting to know you as an activist, and what do you seek to achieve, especially for choosing this difficult path of climate change, which some people are still skeptical and don't appreciate what surrounds or involves climate change. And you can explain that and just tell us a bit about this animal called climate change and how it is affecting Zambia and other countries across the globe.
Wow, a mouthful of questions.
Exactly.
I'll try my best to respond to all of them. I think there could be maybe 4 or 5 questions already. You see, climate change, it's a global a challenge that is affecting everybody, on this planet Earth, and it has got a devastating impact not only on human beings, but also on the entire ecosystem. In this case, we are talking about sensitive, ecosystems such as water bodies, swamps, rivers. We're talking about forests, living organisms in that live in this ecosystem. So, taking Zambia as a case for example, is that Zambia's agricultural sector, for instance, it is mainly rain-fed. It is mainly rain-fed, and the over 2 million smallholder farmers that which we have, their main dependence is on rainfall. In an event where the rain season is over, there is no farming taking place. They will begin to do other activities for them to be able to continue their livelihood. But for commercial farmers, in this case, they're able to grow even what we call winter maize, because they have the machinery to do so. So now, the consequences of climate change have got a huge, impact on the agricultural sector, especially in our setup. And the agricultural sector in our country is also actually the largest, employer, and it consists the large number of women, that derive their income from this sector. And climate change impacts is actually affecting agricultural productivity in this case, not only in Zambia but also in other developing countries that do not have the much needed capacity to adapt. And the climate change has continued even to push people below the poverty line, because imagine in an event where there is prolonged drought, or abnormal rainfall, and I think we've seen it before, even here in Zambia, where rains have been so much, sweeping crops, and even damaging infrastructure, displacing people, causing what we call climate refugees, moving from one place to another. While in other areas, they are not experiencing the same rains. There is maybe a drought. And in such areas, you find that there is water scarcity because of too much heat and so forth. So these are some of the examples of the negative impacts of climate change, not only on food productivity, but also when it comes to issues of water scarcity. And hence, I'm sure if you've been following, even from the executive, the president himself, and his ministers and permanent secretaries, they have taken these issues of climate change very seriously, because it is actually having a huge impact, on national economic growth. Because where issues of climate change are not handled, the growth of the economy is actually hampered. For example, some few years ago, remember the road shedding that which we had. I think that was 2015, 2016, somewhere there, when most part of the country actually, were experiencing severe road shedding, and that was attributed to low water table in Lake Kariba. So now, if we allow people to begin to undertake various human activities along the main streams, along rivers, those rivers will begin to dry up. And for example, sand mining, if we allow sand mining to continue happening along the Zambezi River, if we allow tree cutting to go even as far as water catchment areas, those rivers will dry. And when such a thing happens, bigger water bodies like Kariba will also be affected. So in short, climate change is actually human caused. Naturally, climate changes over a period of 100 years, but we human beings, we are causing it to change faster than it should be, and because of human activities such as unsustainable agricultural practices, the burning of fossil fuels, in this case petrol and diesel, that which is used in these machines, high level of industrial productivity has massively contributed to the rising, or rather accumulation of what we call the greenhouse gas, in this case carbon dioxide. So we are everyone actually has contributed, but there is some space for us, if the world was to agree, to try and begin to reverse these consequences.
Some of the consequences that you have mentioned here, some of the causes rather you have mentioned here, when I sit here, I look at these as economic activities that better our lives, for lack of a better term. Do you feel that the world, and Zambia specifically, we are appreciating the effects of climate change, considering that, as you said, people are mining sand from the banks of the rivers, charcoal burning, these are economic activities. Also, we see that there is building, the Forest 27, people are building on a water aquifer. Do you feel as an activist that as a country we are beginning to appreciate the effects of climate change, and there will be need for us to start drifting attention to moving away from these activities?
There is a huge gap out there when it comes to knowledge and also information sharing. Most of these issues, we talk so much about them in boardrooms, and obviously there have been some efforts out there to try and sensitize the communities. But I think most of the time, people that are sensitized or build their capacity are people that already know these things. So we need to begin to, to educate the public by going out there and also to leverage on what is already happening to strengthen the already existing activities in terms of awareness creation. But you see, to some extent, this climate change issue, it is also sensitive to some extent. Because, for instance, if we tell a charcoal burner to stop cutting down trees for charcoal, there's always, providing alternative source of income to those that are into charcoal production or any other activity that is degrading the environment. So if we tell them to stop cutting down trees for charcoal purpose, we need to provide them with alternatives. But as a country, there's quite a lot which the Minister of Green Economy is doing in terms of putting in place policies, and also some legal frameworks that will now be used to govern, the climate change agenda in the country, and we were actually so happy when the ministry, when the president introduced the new Ministry of Green Economy and Environmental Protection to specifically deal with issues of climate change and sustainable development. So now, I don't know if you've heard this word called the green growth agenda, whereby we are saying that we will not take the path of USA, will not take the path of China, will not take the path of Canada and those other developed countries in terms of how they developed. They polluted to develop because they used much of coal, for example, to generate electricity, and the consequences that which we are facing actually has mainly been caused not by ourselves to a larger extent, but by the developed countries. So now, if we are saying let's take the route of green growth, agenda, and then we are a country that is also still developing. We are still one of the least developed countries. What would be the consequences of taking the path of green growth for a country like Zambia that has got a very small national GDP? So these are the issues that which we've been interacting with policymakers and people that make decisions to say, in the absence of financial resources and appropriate technology, the green growth agenda might be very difficult to be achieved until those that have caused this climate change to the larger extent must be able to provide the resources on the table and the technology to allow our people, our smallholder farmers out there, to be able to adapt.
But the argument would be that these countries will continue to advance industrialization while us we are moving into the green agenda. They cause the damage, we start the mitigation. Is that the right approach, or what are we also doing collectively, for example, under frameworks like the COP? This year we're talking about the COP, what? Is it COP 28? So what are we advancing to also make sure that even them, they should make sure that they do not continue to expand, pretending to how they have industrialized to this extent?
Yes, the developed countries, to some extent, others they are trying their best to also to go green, and but that is not an easy, something easy to do. For instance, the introduction of electric cars. That is one of the major, initiative that Western countries are already venturing in to try and begin to reduce the accumulation of carbon. But again, if the Russia-Ukraine war is also actually affecting these efforts. And because you want to go green, you want to go solar, but these other forces are also, impacting that which you want to achieve in terms of a green growth agenda.
Could it be just the Russia-Ukraine war, because African countries are also engulfed in wars? Don't you think that also has an effect? Because African wars have also been continuous, especially in some countries like Somalia. We continue to send troops to the Central African Republic. How do we expect the Central African Republic to contribute to the climate agenda, Somalia to contribute to that, when they are engulfed in issues pertaining to conflict?
That is a very important question and concern. In the midst of war, civil unrest, and coupled with the adverse impacts of climate change, it just worsens the situation. It worsens, the adaptive capability for individuals and society to be able to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change. At the end of the day, we need peace has to prevail. In war-torn regions, it is practically impossible to implement climate change adaptation measures because institutions are not strong. People are not in one place. Levels of corruption are so high. There is a high level of resource exploitation. So we also have a problem as Africa. But moving forward, we still have the opportunity. We still have the opportunity, because if we begin to leverage on some of these very important natural resources that which we have, to champion the green growth agenda, it can be done. The cobalt industry, because Congo and Zambia alone, they hold 80% of cobalt in the world, and this is a rich resource, that which is needed, to venture into electric car, manufacturing. So Zambia and Congo alone has that control of this rich, mineral resource. So since we've been talking and pushing for the developed countries to provide the much needed finance from these COP processes, these meetings we've been attending each year, now it is COP28, which will be in Dubai, meaning 28 years of negotiation. What are we negotiating about as Africa? We are saying we need the appropriate technology. We need the finance from those that have polluted. But if we say we need the appropriate technology, that technology has got the owners. The technology for Elon Musk, it is not the technology for the United States. It is his technology, and he can't give it for free. So that is where some of these issues become very, very critical. But moving forward, again, we need to invest internally within ourselves as a country into research and development. We should invest so much into these research institutions, so that, because at the end of the day, we have brilliant young men and women in these universities, in these research institutions, that when given the much needed support, they can actually develop high quality technology that can be used by farmers in terms of irrigation, that can be used in various sectors of the economy, to be able to help reduce when it comes to issues of impact of climate change.
Interesting, Mr. Musumari. Well, our dear viewers, in case you're just joining us in studio, we have our guest, Mr. Abel Musumari, who is helping us discuss issues bordering on climate change. And in case you want to join the conversation, you can do so, or leave us a message on our Facebook page. We'll be glad to hear from you. Now, moving on the program, I want to also get your perspective. We understand that, for instance, we have the carbon fund, which everyone who owns a vehicle contributes to through RATA. Now, this fund does not go to directly to the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. This fund goes to Control 99. And if you look at Zambia's agenda in terms of financing climate change, it's highly dependent on donors. But how can we make sure that we also make sure that we drive the agenda using our available resources as a country to be able to contribute towards mitigating the negative effects of climate change?
That's a very important question, and because we've been pushing and pushing from the international communities, from the developed countries, requesting for monies, and the amount of those monies we've been asking, that money is not coming. Whatever money that has been coming into the country, to finance climate change related programs is very little compared to what we need as a country. Mm-hmm. So Zambia's need in terms of climate financing, according to our nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement on climate change, is that we need $50 billion by the year 2030 to be able to implement both adaptation and mitigation measures when it comes to issues of climate change. And we are saying 35 billion of that funding should come from international sources, and 15 billion should be mobilized locally. So now, look at $15 billion to be mobilized locally, specific for climate change interventions. Where will that money come from at the end of the day? And because our economy is too small, our economy is worth $20 billion. Zambia is worth $20 billion. That is why it is very difficult, for anyone in this country to become a billionaire in dollars. I don't know if you know any billionaire in dollars in this country. I don't know any. Okay, the economy is too small. $20 billion, and you have to mobilize $15 billion to deal with issues of climate change. Now, it cuts across major sectors of the economy: agriculture, energy itself, education, technology, infrastructure, because climate change is affecting every sector of the economy. So now, coming to the carbon tax, which every motorist pays, yes, that money should be channeled towards environmental activities, and hence we've been pushing as activists to say we need to create a national climate change fund, and we are on the right track as we speak. That the government is in the process actually to establish that fund. Mm-hmm. So once the climate change bill goes to Parliament and it is enacted, issues of the National Climate Change Fund will be established, and we expect monies from the carbon tax on plastics, the use of plastics, and so many other tax that are in line, with the environment, could be channeled in that national fund. Mm-hmm. But once that national fund is established, we still need to go beyond the carbon tax and so forth to be able to come up with other innovative ways. Obviously working hand in hand with ZRI as well and other financial institutions to mobilize those resources to allow civil society organization, private sector to apply to government, just like we apply for citizen economic empowerment, fund, mm-hmm. Youth empowerment fund. When this climate change fund is established, citizens should be given the rights and the opportunity, if they've got innovative ideas, green business, enterprises can apply to that fund to venture into any project that have got the capability to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas from the atmosphere.
Interesting. So as we wind up our conversation on climate change, Mr. Msomali, I want us to conclude on this aspect where what should we look at, because we'll be soon going to what they call at the annual engineering exhibition of floods, is it? As they call it in Lusaka. Yeah. Because that is also among the devastating the effects of climate change that we have seen. That, for example, in most parts of the country we experience flash floods, mm-hmm. and we are seeing that we haven't been able to prepare for such issues, and that is demonstrated in how we are reactively responding as a country every time, especially during the rainy season, like you had earlier stated in your preamble. How can we now take a proactive approach to see to it to say some of these things are foreseen, and how can we make sure that we enhance our weather predictions, because weather is a critical component of climate change?
Yes, correct. You see, this country sometimes we work in reverse, you know, because Zambia, you know, in the past it was well known, even before maybe you and I maybe were born. I think if you read history, is that Zambia is one of the countries actually in the world that have highly qualified engineers when it comes to mining engineers, and that's the reason why we managed even you know to venture into is it not open pit mining, but the other one, what is it called?
Is it the underground?
The underground mining. So if you can do the underground mining, you are able to control the water tables under there. You are doing your mining, you are controlling the water. You know, that alone is a high skill. So if we can manage such kind of complicated and sophisticated you know, business ventures, what then is a problem to deal with simple flooding in the CBD? You know, flooding that has become more like an annual ceremony. It is, you know, all we need is just to you know to invest into infrastructure. Of course, there is is it Bombay drainage, but in itself it is not enough to deal with flooding in Lusaka. What we need are to come up with sophisticated drainage systems that should be more like underground. You know, these drainage systems can be throwing water maybe to some place or where water can be harvested for agricultural purposes. Because having floods year in year out, I think it is something that should not be entertained. We are talking of, I don't know how many years now that Lusaka keeps on flooding. When the solution is there, and the solution is to bring the engineers together and to plan, because if we say the drainages you know are blocked and all that, it is beyond that, because those drainages when they were created way back, what was the size? Was it this size, you know? And what is happening now? Do we still need this size of a drainage system, or we need a drainage system that is bigger like this room? So I think going forward is that Lusaka needs to be redesigned and also establish underground drainage system that will be able to throw water to some area where some water harvesting you know, methods can take place, and use that water for agricultural purpose.
As we wind up, Mr. Musomari would want to get your concluding remarks.
Climate change is here to stay, and all we can do is to work together as key stakeholders, you know, to be able to find adaptive measures, especially for the communities that have been affected by the adverse impacts of climate change. We need to invest more into climate financing so that we are able to build the resilience of those most affected, you know, farming communities. And also moving forward is that the international communities should you know begin to honor their pledges. There are so many pledges that are done at these UN international climate change summits, when it comes to financing. I think it is time that the international communities, the developed countries, begin to honor their pledges, and because climate change will not continue waiting for someone to sign a check out there, and the sooner we begin to take issues of climate change seriously, the better, so that the development that which is taking place already should not be reversed because of some climate change impacts, that could occur in the future. And also, lastly, just to to implore government that the climate change bill, I think it's time that it should be taken to Parliament for debate and the enactment, because once it is enacted, then it will become law. Currently, as we speak, Zambia doesn't have a legal framework that should govern climate change issues. We have policies, yes, climate change policy, we have environment policies, we have, but a policy in itself is not enough. We need an act of Parliament, we need law to be established. So we are behind schedule, and we expect that very soon that should be taken to Parliament, so that issues of climate change are dealt with, beyond what is happening right now. And also, the media have got a huge role to play in these issues of creating awareness on issues of climate change and the environmental sustainability. So climate change has now become, the issues of human rights now in these issues of climate change. There's what we call climate justice. So even legal bodies out there should take these issues of climate change with serious concern, because issues of climate justice is something that which we are advocating for, to say climate justice should begin to be respected, so that those people that are affected are able to be helped, to start a new life, in this case. So thank you so much for inviting me, and looking forward to appear again in future when invited.
Not a problem. We'll continue interacting pertaining to matters relating to climate change. And right about now, we are going to look at a story where the Engineering Institute of Zambia, EIZ, says it has instituted investigation pertaining to the accident where a building under construction collapsed at Lusaka Linda roundabout on Monday, 1st August 2023, killing one person. And another story where government has held the Chipata City Council for ensuring that traders conduct their business in designated areas as opposed to street vending. Let's have a look at this story as we allow our guest to leave the studio.
We are very concerned as EIZ because we can see very clearly there was no health and safety procedures which were put in place. So for us as EIZ, we actually appeal to the Lusaka City Council through the Department of Engineering to make sure that they can pursue this issue, so that they get to the bottom of it. Because the law is very clear under the Health and Safety Act. So if you check the law, it's very clear. If you are constructing, you are supposed to make sure that all precautions are taken into account. So as EIZ, we feel very bad and very sad actually that one life has been lost. So we call upon the Lusaka City Council to investigate the matter. Otherwise, even us as EIZ will make sure we make a follow-up, so that we get to the bottom of it. This is something which should not be tolerated. When you're a member of EIZ, you are supposed to follow all the procedures, including health and safety on construction sites. And all procedures must be followed. When you're constructing, especially a double-story building, the requirements are even more stringent. We don't even know right now the quality of concrete which is there. So I think even as EIZ, we're going to pay particular attention in this particular matter. We're going to send inspectors there to get to the bottom of it, to find out actually what has transpired. And if we find that engineering professionals or people who are not registered with EIZ were actually constructing that particular building, we shall take action.
we must commend you, Your Worship, that your city is doing extremely well. We have seen that the issues that we are sort of beginning to grapple with in Lusaka to do with street vendors. There are no street vendors in Chipata. The last time I came in Chipata, this whole road was congested with street vendors. But there was a Saturday market and so on. But it's clear now. Yeah. You have managed to move all our people into the markets, and the city is clear, and I think it's a commendable thing, and that is what we want replicated countrywide, that people should go and trade in conducive trading spaces where there's enough facilities for sanitation, shelter, and so on. So
yes, we are very, very thankful, and please, as we go back to Lusaka, take our message of appreciation to the President for giving us this resource, the Constituency Development Fund, that is really, really doing wonders. We've had various problems, the Tilansembe Gadi, for example, which we've since worked on. And of course, we've put up various infrastructure, houses for members of staff to support with the health system and education infrastructure. As you may be aware that when you gave us free education, the enrollment levels have gone up, and that means that we needed to have more space for classrooms. And the CDF is helping us to address this challenge. We've been able to put a 1x3 classroom block at Kagunda and at Kauzu Primary School, where there was a big problem with classroom space.
There you have it. Thank you for staying with us. And we had a wonderful conversation with our guest there pertaining to climate change. That was Mr. Abel Musomali, and he was helping us to discuss various issues pertaining to climate change. Climate change is real, and climate change is having a toll on the Zambian economy. And if you remember, in some time back, climate change was a major attribute to why the Zambian economy was not performing as it should. And even at the moment, while government has to spend to other important needy areas, climate change effects have also prompted government to start shifting gears and start spending where it did not plan to spend resources. So if you look at climate change, especially if you are a farmer, you know by now that, for instance, if you have too much rainfall, it means that your yield won't be better. If you have dry spells, again, it means that it's a loss. We had a lot of incidents pertaining to dry spells and also flash floods, for instance, in Western Province, where people are now being compelled to seek relief food from the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, because of some of these negative effects of climate change. And we also see, for example, we have seen heat waves, and other countries, the heat waves are very, very bad. But in Zambia, we've also experienced them in some instances. But that is a reflection of how the weather is changing. You know, normally would be experiencing rainfall as we start October. But sometimes we may go the entire month without having rainfall. All those things are an indicator of the shift and of how things are changing as a result of climate change. We had regions that were more productive, such as Southern Province, and being the food basket of the country. Now it is shifting towards the Northern Hemisphere, where there is now a lot of plenty of rainfall. If you go to the eastern side of the country, so things are really changing as a result of climate change. So it is a subject that we need to continuously take an interest in as a people, because at the end of the day, it does not affect a single person. It affects everyone and the globe.
Thank you very much. So that is about climate change, and we now want to just look at some of the messages that are coming through on our social media page. Thank you very much for those of you that have been sending those messages on social media. Ngema Pringta Enes says our very own chairman representing Charo. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Abigail Online Hustles says, well, as a country, we are only worth 20 billion United States dollars. I know now. You see the goodness of watching Camnet Breakfast. You really get to learn.
You learn a lot. Yeah, it's important that you take interest in watching programs that are informative.
Yeah. So Abigail, you now know that we are worth 20 billion United States dollars. Moving on, Sequila Nsata says great stuff. obviously enjoying the program. Thank you very much, Sequila. We appreciate. Collins Kawanga says, doing a good job there. Thank you very much, Collins. We really appreciate. And one chairman representing AMF watching. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Melu Bwalia Meru has spoken my mind. Listen to this. Are these bus operators serious? They have placed their money over the lost lives. These bus operators are the real reason the bus drivers have such attitudes and behavior that endanger lives. I don't hear in the clip condolences for the lost lives. I salute the minister. Consultation, my foot. I think he has spoken. I wouldn't have been this harsh, but I think this is what was on my mind.
Yeah. I think there should be a little bit of remorse,
Yes.
And there should be a little bit of regret, and the way they are putting it, they say just because of one person, and they want to punish everyone. But that same one person claimed the lives of many people, 4 families. It's not a joke. Life is not repressible.
Because of my carelessness, I cost the lives of I don't know how many who are probably breadwinners and very dependable members of their families. So their families now will have problems. There's this line that I really like in this message. It says, these bus operators are the real reason the bus drivers have such attitudes. Because even if you report me to my boss, nothing will happen.
Yeah, I think now that's an eye-opener for these bus operators, because they need to be making sure that they should be acting when people are talking. Because if that accident happened, I expected them to have also even come to the public to say, we are not happy with what has happened. For example, this is a space of 1 month. Within 1 month, this bus goes to hit into a train. That's a serious mistake, if you ask me, because that's basic. Even me, I don't know how to drive, but I know that when you are approaching the rail line, I think you have to be more cautious than to acknowledge and also give way to the train, because you know that you cannot stand a chance with the train. So it is automatically that you need to be to show a little bit of courtesy. So that is negligence for me. And when that accident happened, did we see this bus operator also coming on and the association coming to say, we are not happy with what has happened, and we are concerned about this? They were quiet.
You see,
and when the government asks, because lives are continuing are being lost, and the same operator is involved. When the minister cracks a whip and the people are saying, no, you should have consulted, because that's after all, that's a report to the minister. How do they can they assume that there was no consultation? They wanted to be consulted. Now the punishment will be meted.
Patrick, you are wrong. I want to punish you.
How should I punish you? That's the arrangement, and I think I do not agree with that.
No, but you have brought in a very important point there, where you say we've seen a lot of accidents. We have not seen these bus owners come and address us and say, okay, we are sorry that there was this accident, condolences to the family, but now what we are going to do going forward is that we won't allow any drivers to be drinking as they drive, or we won't allow any drivers to be driving alone. Now there will be 3 drivers, one going, one coming, one. They have not come.
Yes.
When there is an accident. When they are punished, when
they wake up and say, I think they need to be proactive.
These accidents have been happening. You have called the Kapiri accident, is it the Mpika accident, as a silly decision by the driver. You can't still sit quiet and wait for punishment for you to come out now and say, no, how do you punish us like that without consulting? Consult who? When you have made a mistake, I come to you and say, so sir, what you have done here is a grave mistake. So how do you want us to punish you? Or we want to punish you by...
I'll tell you to say, don't punish me at all.
Yes. Or at we revoke your license, or we suspend it, or
we do what? So at the end of the day, I think the arguments do not hold water. I think it's an eye-opener for them to be proactive in terms of addressing issues, especially that border on people's lives. It's handling a PSV vehicle is not a joke, and you do not have to tiptoe with people's lives, because life is sacred, and every time, if it doesn't matter a mistake, whether it is one person who is injured, even an accident there, if we establish that there was a little bit of negligence there, the right action should be taken. You understand? But they were quiet after the accident. Another accident happens, and then the ministry acts, and then they wake up to say, no, you did not do. You should have consulted. I don't think that it's been fair, and we'll continue to see, we'll seek to interrogate them to find out why are they coming out like this. I think we can invite them next week so that we can have a conversation. But that's a genuine concern there on our Facebook page regarding these operators. They have not been proactive. I think that's where that's why they need to also invest in public relations. Sure. Because if you invest in public relations, you can be able to provide information timely. But what they do is that they want to minimize the costs as much as possible. Yes, they do not see the need for public relations units, even allowing their members to affiliate to unions. They do not do that. You understand? But now when things are tense, that's when they come out. They're trying to advise government on what they should have done. I think that's a reactive approach, and themselves, they should have been coming out frequently, telling the people about what they're doing to enhance safety. Because overall, addressing safety measures is not just a baby of the Road Safety and Transport Agency, RATS, and the Zambia Police. Even them as players, they have to make sure to say, but we are thinking that to uphold safety or to increase safety on the road, this is what we want you to do. They should be making those recommendations, and the public would have appreciated to say they have been committed. They have been actually trying hard to make sure that they propagate safety issues.
I would love to see, as you have put it, them convene the media like they did there to start to say, we would like to call on government to, I think, put in place measures to ensure that the Mongu Kalabo road is worked on, because we are endangering the lives of the people on that particular road. We have seen accidents happening because of the poor state of the road, and we are appealing to government to quickly look into this matter, because we don't want to lose lives. Or we are appealing to government to ensure that they put more speed traps, because when you find the speed traps at Kamangwe, the next speed trap you will find it in Kapiri. So here from Kamangwe to Kapiri, drivers can be reckless. So we appeal to government that at least a speed trap every after 100 kilometers, or every after 60.
People would have appreciated.
I mean, people would appreciate such, not just to come and cry and say, no, this is look, we have lost lives because of.
Okay, I think we can just swap. May they bring back the lives, and we give them back. We advocate for their license to be the suspension to be lifted.
Yes,
because even the punishment for me, I think it is lenient, because it's a suspension. So it's not like they have revoked.
If honestly, if they were really truly speaking, they are speaking as our viewer has said. They are putting money ahead of everything.
Ahead of everything, yes. They are putting economy and whatever ahead of everything. No, what economy is there to lead with if there are no people to carry?
Yes. What if today they carry accident, tomorrow who are they going to carry next time?
Interesting, because let's wind up.
Yes, we need to go. The Agriculture and Commercial Show opened its doors yesterday to the public.
Yeah, so interesting enough, we are open for business at the Agriculture and Commercial Show as Camnet TV, and our marketing department will be visiting stands and interacting with exhibitors during the show. And those of you who will not manage to be part of the show, we are bringing the show to you. We'll be updating you regarding what is happening and some of the interesting stories that are also coming from the show society, because as you already know that activities, all roads are leading to the Agriculture and Commercial Show, because that's where almost every company is operating from. So if you want to also familiarize yourselves with how various institutions operate, you need to go to the show and get to interact with the business community, the institutions, the Zambia Police, the defense wings, all various players will be at the show. So you can go to know various issues, you can visit various stands such as the ECZ, so that you get to know the electoral process. So various players will be at the Show Society, and as Camnet TV will also be providing coverage to the stands of our clients, and also getting this time around we are also trying to make sure that we are inclusive by making sure that we also accommodate the small scale enterprises of this world, so that we help them grow, and this Show Society provides an opportunity for them to showcase their businesses to the public. And those of you who won't manage to see, because this is where there's a lot of innovation. In case of things that you haven't been able to see at the Show Society, they do come out, and we are going to make sure that we also give the SMEs an opportunity to advertise their businesses at flexible rates, so that we can be able to aid their growth. And we continue to discuss business beyond the show, so that we can continue to grow with the growing movement, which is Camnet TV, the channel of choice. And always remember that Camnet TV exists because of you, our dear viewers, and we prioritize the community because our royalty is earned to the public.